Ukraine delivered a significant blow to Russia with a large-scale drone attack targeting multiple sites across the country, including the capital, Moscow. The assault, utilizing unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, not only marked a bold escalation in Ukraine's military strategy, but also exposed critical vulnerabilities in Russia's air defense systems. Several areas were engulfed in flames after Russian defenses failed to repel the relentless waves of attacks. The operation unfolded on the night of September 12, 2025, with Russian officials and media confirming that hundreds of Ukrainian drones breached their borders. Comment #1 if you support Ukraine's fight for independence and freedom. According to Russia's Ministry of Defense, 221 Ukrainian drones were shot down, but several penetrated the Kremlin's weakening air defenses, striking targets and causing significant damage and chaos. The primary focus of Ukraine's drone strikes included the Smolensk, Leningrad, and Moscow regions. In Smolensk, located in western Russia near the Belarus border, fires erupted at a Lukoil facility. This critical oil refinery, capable of processing 340,000 barrels of crude oil annually, suffered severe damage, disrupting fuel supply chains vital to Russia's military operations. Smolensk's governor, Vasily Anakhin, reported that local air defenses were activated to counter the drones, but provided no further details. Meanwhile, local residents captured harrowing footage, showing massive columns of smoke rising into the sky, flames on the horizon, and explosions echoing through the air. The videos clearly indicated that at least some Ukrainian drones hit their targets despite Russia's defensive efforts. Governor Anakhin's failure to mention the Lukoil facility or any fires and explosions is another example of Russian officials concealing the extent of damage from Ukrainian attacks, likely to prevent public panic. However, the footage tells a different story, with sounds of cries and screams audible amid raging fires. This lack of transparency fuels growing discontent among Russian citizens who witness critical infrastructure being destroyed without clear explanations from authorities. Further north, additional strikes targeted the Leningrad region, bordering Baltic Estonia and Nordic Finland, near Russia's major city of St. Petersburg. Ukrainian drones struck the Primorsk port, Russia's largest Baltic oil port, handling over 1 million barrels of oil exports annually and serving as an economic lifeline. The attack sparked a massive fire on the oil tanker Urals, with a capacity of 1,050,000 barrels. Leningrad's governor, Alexander Drozdenko, confirmed at least one blaze on a docked vessel and reported that approximately 30 drones were downed across the region. Debris from the drones fell in multiple locations, including the town of Tosno, about 30 miles southeast of St. Petersburg, and smaller villages like Uzmino and Pokrovskaya. Despite Governor Drozdenko's claim of no casualties or significant damage, Russian official reports often omit unfavorable details to project a more favorable image. Air defenses were activated in at least one St. Petersburg district, and the city's Pulkovo International Airport, Russia's second busiest, was temporarily closed, disrupting or canceling numerous flights. The closure caused widespread chaos, with over 70 flights canceled or delayed within 12 hours, impacting thousands of passengers and halting military cargo transport, a recurring issue in recent months. For instance, on July 6, 2025, multiple Russian airports shut down and canceled flights due to safety concerns following Ukrainian drone attacks across the country. Ukraine's approach effectively brings the war to Russian soil, showing citizens the stark reality without resorting to Russia's inhumane tactics, such as bombing civilian targets like residential areas and schools. Unlike Russia, Ukraine carefully selects strategic military and economic targets to minimize civilian casualties while maximizing military impact and maintaining an ethical stance internationally. Approximately 50 flights were disrupted or canceled at Pulkovo due to the September 12 attack. Residents reported explosions, describing it as one of the largest attacks in the region, according to the independent Telegram news channel Astra.
In a post accompanied by videos capturing loud explosions, Astra noted that the most concerning aspect for Russian President Vladimir Putin was likely the sight of Ukrainian drones over Moscow's skies. The attack on the capital delivered a powerful psychological blow, with at least 15 UJ-22 and Skyatan ACS-3 drones penetrating Panzer S-1 and S-400 air defenses to strike military facilities in Moscow's outskirts, including a logistics depot in the Domodedovo area. Moscow's mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, claimed at least 9 drones were shot down and reported emergency response teams addressing debris sites but offered no further details.
Mayor Sobyanin did not confirm whether the city sustained damage or specify where the drones were downed, reflecting Russia's typical strategy of secrecy and tight information control. However, unofficial Telegram and X sources reported at least 2 major explosions near Vnukovo Airport, damaging a military warehouse and sparking a fire that burned for over 6 hours. Russian officials remain cautious in disclosing negative details, often withholding or obscuring unfavorable information.
In an era of internet and social media, such tactics are increasingly ineffective. While Sobyanin remained silent, Russian Telegram channels shared resident accounts of events in and around Moscow. Reports described explosions in the Mazhaisk and Zyadov communities, just west of the capital. Mazhaisk residents filmed a drone being shot down, with its debris crashing into a residential area, igniting a 5-story apartment building and forcing the evacuation of 20 people. This incident underscores that not all Ukrainian drones were neutralized, despite Russia's Ministry of Defense claiming 85 drones destroyed in Bryansk, 42 in Smolensk, 28 in Leningrad, 18 in Kaluga, 14 in Novgorod, and 9 in Moscow and Oryol. Additional drones were downed in Belgorod, Tula, and Kursk, indicating one of Ukraine's most widespread drone attacks to date, targeting over a dozen regions. Coordinated by Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, GUR, the operation launched over 300 drones from bases in Sumy and Kharkiv, supported by electronic intelligence units jamming Russian radar, a tactic Ukraine endures almost nightly. Russia frequently launches waves of drones across Ukraine's borders, targeting towns, cities, and settlements. Russian drones, primarily Iran-supplied Shahed 136 models with a 1,243-mile range and 110-pound warheads, are deployed in large numbers, 100 to 150 per night, striking both military and civilian targets. Ukrainian civilians live under constant threat, with air defenses on high alert to intercept as many enemy drones as possible to minimize damage and casualties. Ukraine's attacks, like the one described, mirror the relentless pressure Russia exerts. The explosions and fires across Russia demonstrate its unpreparedness to counter such assaults. Russian air defense systems, including Panzer S-1 and S-500, were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of Ukrainian drones, achieving only a 60% interception rate, far below official claims. Despite Russia's boasts of having one of the world's largest and most powerful militaries, spending billions annually on tanks, armored vehicles, and recently drone production, over $10 billion in 2024 for 1.2 million Shahed 136 drones and variants, most of which Ukraine has downed or rendered ineffective, its defenses faltered. These systems proved inadequate as Russian cities, towns, and ports faced Ukrainian drone attacks, with even Moscow, typically an impregnable fortress far from the front lines, feeling the war's impact. The Moscow strike shook public confidence in the Kremlin's defenses, with social media videos showing smoke rising from the capital's outskirts, a sight unseen since World War II. While not the first Ukrainian attack on Moscow, previous attempts had limited success. In contrast, Russia has relentlessly bombed Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, since the war's early stages. Just days before this attack, Russia set a new record, launching over 800 drones and missiles, including Shahed 136 drones and K-101 cruise missiles, into Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities, killing at least 4 and injuring over 40. Costing an estimated $1.5 billion, the assault severely damaged civilian infrastructure, including a Kyiv children's hospital. Among the victims were a new mother and her newborn, with 20 others injured per local officials. Residential buildings were hit, with fires and explosions echoing across the city for hours. President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks, stating that such deliberate killings, especially when diplomacy could have progressed, only prolonged the war. He urged the international community to bolster Ukraine's air defenses, particularly with Patriot and NASAM systems, to protect civilians. Washington has repeatedly warned of sanctions if negotiations stall. Zelensky emphasized the need to fully implement agreements reached in Paris. Zelensky also highlighted Ukraine's proactive response, enhancing defenses to intercept more drones and missiles in future attacks. Systems like Germany's IRST and Norway's NASAMS, deployed in Kyiv, achieved an 85% interception rate in recent assaults. Ukraine is coordinating diplomatic efforts and actions with partners for an appropriate response. Alongside France, new defense measures are being prepared. Meanwhile, Russia's focus on offensive operations, allocating over 70% of its 2025 defense budget, roughly $120 billion, to attacks, while only 15% to air defense upgrades, has left it vulnerable. Russia frequently launches hundreds of drones per attack. On September 10, 2025, it deployed 120 Shahed 136 drones and 30 Iskander-M missiles targeting Ukrainian power plants and logistics depots, with only 40% hitting their targets due to interceptions. Along the front lines, Russia has sent small troop units to assault towns like Pokrovsk, aiming to seize territory quickly, though progress remains slow. In Pokrovsk, Russia lost over 5,000 soldiers and 200 armored vehicles in 2 months, costing an estimated $500 million, while advancing less than 6 miles. Recently, Russia even attacked beyond Ukraine into Poland, with drones breaching Polish and NATO airspace, prompting the Polish Air Force to shoot them down, the first such incident since the invasion began. Reports indicated these drones were en route to Rzeszów Airport, a key logistics hub for Ukraine's European aid. Some drones were spotted in Lithuanian airspace, though the Kremlin denied responsibility, claiming its drones lack such range. A senior NATO official told Germany's Welt that available intelligence suggests the drones deliberately entered NATO airspace. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius agreed, stating there's no evidence the drones accidentally entered Polish territory in such numbers. NATO analysis indicates they were programmed to fly through Poland, possibly to test NATO's response or disrupt Ukraine's military aid. Zelensky called the attack a deliberate provocation by Moscow, setting a dangerous precedent for Europe.
Moscow continually pushes boundaries, and without a strong response, it will maintain this escalation. Russian Iranian Shahed drones, upgraded with 132-pound warheads and improved guidance, operated in Polish and NATO airspace, signaling deeper Russia-Iran weapons collaboration. At least 8 drones targeted Poland, not a single accidental Shahed. This sets an extremely dangerous precedent for Europe, with further escalation depending on the strength of the response. Russia must face consequences and understand that the war cannot expand and must end. While Russia's recent record-breaking attacks on Ukraine and drone incursions into Poland are concerning, there's a glimmer of hope. Russia's focus on launching drones and missiles has left it unprepared to defend against similar attacks on its soil.
Russia has poured excessive resources into producing drones and conducting offensives, over $200 billion since 2022, while allocating only $30 billion to air defense upgrades, resulting in critical detection and interception shortfalls. Ukraine capitalized on this vulnerability, exploiting Kremlin weaknesses in its large-scale drone attack. Though the full extent of damage is unclear, Russia will likely face significant repair and rebuilding costs once the fires are extinguished.
Ukraine's drone attack was likely planned for months. Since 2023, Ukraine invested over $2 billion in its domestic drone program, producing over 500,000 units, including advanced models like the UJ-26 Horus, capable of carrying 44-pound warheads and flying low to evade radar. Kyiv has repeatedly targeted Russian logistics, refineries, ammunition depots, and critical defense systems. For example, in June 2024, Ukraine used US-supplied HIMARS launchers and GMLRS missiles to destroy a Russian S-400 system in Belgorod, obliterating 2 launchers worth $1.2 billion and a 55K6E radar, weakening Russia's border air defenses. In August 2024, Ukraine conducted a coordinated strike in Crimea, sinking a Russian submarine and damaging 4 S-400 missile launchers, creating an air corridor for drones and missiles. The attack used Magura V-5 naval drones with 550-pound warheads, sinking the $300 million Rostov-on-Don submarine and destroying an ammunition depot near Sevastopol. Similar strikes in Crimea, Kursk, and Belgorod targeted Russian radars and defense systems. Ukraine's drones have inflicted billions in damage, with over $5 billion in losses to Russian air defenses since 2023, including 20 radars and 15 S-400 complexes. On September 9, 2025, Ukraine's GER struck a radar pair in Crimea, part of a larger air defense network. Specifically, a 48Y A6K1 Podlet low-altitude radar and an RLM module, both part of the Nebo-M system, were destroyed by 10 UJ-26 Horus drones, each costing $50,000 but causing $100 million in damage. A week earlier, an S-300 radar was also eliminated.
Each strike diminishes Russia's ability to detect and intercept Ukrainian drones and missiles. Russia's attacks prioritize volume over precision, launching waves of drones and missiles with little regard for accuracy. Many are intercepted by Kyiv's improving defenses, some developed domestically, others supplied by global allies. While some hit targets, causing tragic civilian losses, Ukraine's strikes are more strategic, targeting high-value assets like million-dollar radars and launchers, not civilian infrastructure. Ukraine's September 10 attack on the Toropets ammunition depot destroyed over 30,000 tons of munitions worth $1.5 billion, severely hampering Russia's Western Front supply lines. This weakens Russia, creating gaps along front lines and deeper into its territory, making future Ukrainian strikes harder to counter. Ukraine's success stems from meticulous planning, intelligence, and strategy. With Russia's defenses increasingly degraded and the Kremlin prioritizing offense, more vulnerabilities will likely emerge, enabling further Ukrainian attacks on high-value targets like ports, airports, and factories. Ukraine is refining its approach, leveraging resources to shift the war in its favor. Since 2022, Russia has spent over $300 billion on military operations, including $200 billion on weapons and drones, $50 billion on logistics, and $50 billion on ground campaigns. Ukraine's attacks have caused $50 billion in damage to Russia in 2024 alone, targeting air defenses, radars, ammunition depots, and economic infrastructure like the Lukoil refinery and Primorsk port. Ukraine's $10 billion drone and missile program has delivered 5 times the damage relative to its cost. Ukraine's recent unveiling of powerful domestically produced missiles like Long Neptune, Sapsan, and Flamingo heightens concerns for Putin. If Russia struggles against simple drones, it faces even less chance against long-range cruise and ballistic missiles, which cost $500,000 to $2 million each, but outperform Russia's multi-million-dollar air defense systems. Comment #1 if you support Ukraine's fight for independence and freedom.